Your business isn't limited by the tools available to you. It's limited by the subconscious programming, the beliefs running in the background, all of those low level things that you didn't even choose. And today we're going to talk about the operating system in your head. We talk a lot about external optimization and AI tools, but what we're going to talk about today is so much more important than any AI tool available today.
You're listening to the AI Convergence Podcast, presented by Vox AI, where AI, business, and mindset converge.
Welcome to the AI Convergence Podcast, where AI, business, and mindset converge. I'm Matt Aponte, founder and CEO of Vox AI.
I'm Trey Mossman, CTO at Vox AI.
And I'm Christian Camberov, the head of media here at Vox AI.
And in episode 1, we talked about exploring the consciousness shift, where AI takes over the mundane tasks, frees up your time, helps us be more human, et cetera, et cetera. And, talking about that empty nester syndrome that we see, that we predict is going to happen over the next 5-10 years. But in episode 2, we really went over, or Christian did, how AI is now allowing people to make content, business owners to make real, actual good content, not cheesy AI generated stuff, and how now it's accessible. Good, high quality content creation is accessible to every business owner, solopreneurs, and more. And however, today we're going deeper. We are going into the automations and the programs that run in the background of everything. The subconscious programming that dictates your external success, your reality, the decisions you make, the decisions you don't make, and all of those things that are just as important, if not more important, than any SOPs, AI automations that you have running in your business. And for those of you who understand what the subconscious mind is, you understand that that is what dictates 95% of your thoughts, feelings, actions, reactions. And this isn't just woo or fringe science. This is actual proven neuroscience. And that's how we operate. And so this is my wheelhouse. This is something that I'm very passionate about. I'm a NLP practitioner, a mindset coach, in subconscious programming. I have many certifications in the area, and I've been able to use those things to be able to help me to build my businesses and achieve a real work-life balance. And that helps me automate my externals and optimize my internals. And so we're going to dive into that today. So hold on to your hats.
Excited for this one. Yeah, because I know this is your wheelhouse for sure. So
yeah.
It's always cool to see you speak about it or hear you speak about it.
Yeah. And, I think it's not spoken about enough. Like a lot of people talk about mindset. So if you're on TikTok or Instagram or Facebook or whatever, I mean, especially YouTube, there's no shortage of mindset quotes and mindset motivational speeches and whatever. But the reality is, and I feel very comfortable saying this, over 90% of those aren't even talking about the true operating system. I think that mindset has become this click-worthy, trend term, and people don't even really understand what it means. And so, they think that it's this conscious knowing of what to do, this conscious, like, I have to drive and I have to hustle and I have to keep a positive mindset and, the power of positive thinking and all that stuff. Well, what people don't really take into consideration, or they're not even taught, I mean, most people don't even really know, is that our conscious thoughts and the feelings that we have, all of that is dictated by the programming that's running unknowing to us. Have you guys seen that iceberg picture that depicts the mind, right?
Yeah, how much is underneath the water?
Yeah. Yeah. I believe that was like Carl Jung's basically like depiction. It's like the top 10% of the iceberg is the conscious mind. And then all the rest, the 90% is below that. And you have your unconscious, your subconscious, and your superconscious minds. And so, we're gonna try and dive into this. If you're not really familiar with this topic, the goal is to dive into this in a way that's accessible to everybody, so we can understand it. Because I don't want to talk over anybody's heads. So let's break down the concept of the whole subconscious mind. Any of you guys want to take some of these points?
Sure. I mean, you'd probably be able to speak to it better. But yeah, some of the concepts that kind of break this down are your subconscious is like code running in the background. So as you've explained before, that code is kind of, native to what programs you. So if that code doesn't change, or if you don't dive into debug and all that stuff, it's going to remain the same. You're going to keep getting the same output.
Yep.
So
exactly.
Yeah.
I like to liken it to most people are running around on iPhone 1 programming when we're now iPhone 16 Pro Max. And so we're not taught, we're not shown. It's not common practice on how to update your internal programming, and 95% or more of that programming was embedded or put on your hard drive from the time we were born to the age of 13. Neuroscience shows that from the ages of 13 to 28, our belief systems begin to be more firm, stuck, and whatnot. And so all of the stuff that we learn, this is why most of us just don't go around memorizing every moment of our preteen years, because that just kind of is now put in the background, and all of our base programming and the sense that we make of the world in it is really based on that programming. It's like, running on a Windows, 95 operating system. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that for a lot of people, that old programming doesn't support the new programs you're trying to run in your life. If back then you were more dependent, which you would be, on your parents or people around you and your surroundings, or you were raised in a less fortunate home, then those programs are the ones that support you. They keep you alive. They keep you safe. Now, let's say you're trying to run your own business, or become an executive, a C-level executive or a manager in a company, and you're trying to make more money, right? But not to rule the world and be an evil person, but just to try and help yourself and your family and live a more abundant life. Well, if what you're trying, the goals that you're trying to achieve now in 2025 don't match the Windows 95 programming when you were born, well, you're going to have a conflict, right? You're going to have that Windows blue screen that pops up, for our Windows users out
all
there.
The pixels.
Yeah, you know what that is. The blue screen of death. Like you try and run a program, it's like, boom, that sound, boom, it doesn't work. And so that's what happens. That's another word for that is called self-sabotage, basically. So yeah, that's basically the concept. Most people don't even know it's running. AI is exposing everyone's hidden programming right now, and we're going to dive into that. And it controls what you notice. And this is a really important thing that if you're listening to this, I want you to take from this is it's something's called our reticular activating system, or the RAS. And that is kind of like the electronic filter that allows us to pick up on things. And I always use a real simple example for people to kind of grasp it. So let's say you've always wanted to have a yellow Mazda Miata convertible, right? And you never seen them anywhere. Is that your dream car?
It is. Yeah, it's on the vision board back here.
Is it? Yeah, cool. With 3 baby seats tied to the trunk.
Yeah. Custom third seat.
And so like you've always wanted it. So you go to the dealership, you buy the car, and you're like, you've never seen it before. You're like, nobody has this one. It's a limited edition, whatever. Well, as soon as you drive off, Now you're seeing them everywhere, right? You're like, oh, there's another yellow Miata. That's weird. Never seen that one before, and then, every day you're seeing them. Well, the reason why you're seeing them, or it's not like that they just automatically appeared. They were there before. You just didn't see them as much because now your reticular activating system says, you have this is important to you. You need to be able to pick it out in a parking lot so you know where you parked. So every time we see something that matches that, we need to bring it to your attention. And that is how your subconscious, so your subconscious is a program, and your reticular activating system is kind of like the goalie that says, should this get in? Should we notice this or not? And so whenever something becomes important to you, then your reticular activating system starts to say, oh, this is important. We're going to let you see this and recognize this. This is why I always use the example too, where it's like, how many people know of someone who's like, man, you always have the the best opportunities presented to you, but you never take them. Somebody like that. Everybody knows somebody like that. Well, the reason being is because that person is unable to see that as an opportunity. They see it as a risk. They see it as, something to be afraid of or what. So their reticular activating system, based on their programming, doesn't view that as an opportunity like we can clearly see. They view it as a risk factor. And so then therefore it's like, oh no, I can't see it, or I don't recognize it as that. And so that's kind of like a big explanation of how the subconscious controls what you notice. So what do you guys, anything you want to?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a good point. I think with material things like a car, like a yellow Mazda, it's very apparent. It makes it obvious that your RAS is activating in that situation. You're just thinking about it. I think natively, and going back to like our programming, I feel like we're definitely born with some code, right? Some code from like our heritage, our genetics, inheritance, etc. And I feel like that's the tricky area that for me, it just keeps rising up, that little base code. It's like a little module that I can't delete in the code bed. So being able to get there and change that, and then activate your RAS in a way where your mind is, for me, my mind, and I think most people innately go to negative thoughts and self-sabotage and things like that. So that's been a tricky thing for me to, have be just kind of like a default setting, So, so I'm interested to hear, and I know we're going to dive into it later, about how to, upgrade your operating system, your internal operating system, reprogram your system, things like that. But definitely interesting. And I think putting it in those terms makes it really understandable.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically what all this means is that we're only going to achieve what deep down inside we believe we can achieve, and or believe that we're capable of achieving. And that's it. Like it's never going to change. That's literally how we're made up. And the only way that you're going to be able to achieve more is if you change what you believe that you can achieve. Now, here's the tricky part about that, right? And I've fallen into this trap too because I was ignorant and I didn't know. Some people maybe listening to this is like, well, I believe that I can achieve. I believe that I'm worthy of whatever it is. I believe, why would I put that on my vision board or, whatever, if I didn't believe I could do it? Well, belief is not applied in this context to a conscious belief. It's applied to a subconscious belief. So when you break it down, our 95% of our daily thoughts, feelings, actions, and reactions, so think about that, are thoughts, okay? And so you kind of go from the deepest to your actions. So you have your thoughts, they lead to feelings. Those feelings lead to actions. You either take an action or you react to something because somebody says something, somebody cuts you off, you receive an email, whatever, you react. So you're either taking actions based on your feelings, which are predicated by your thoughts, or you're having reactions or inactions, because inactions are just as important as actions. So then the question becomes, well, where do my thoughts come from? So those come from your subconscious mind. And so 95% of your day is based off of your thoughts, feelings, actions, reactions. Only 5% of your day is based off of your conscious thoughts, feelings, actions, reactions, right? So like when you got dressed this morning, you probably didn't put a whole lot of thought into, buttoning your shirt, right? Tying your shoes or whatever. That's been relegated to your subconscious. That's that, if you ride a bike, you're not thinking about like one foot, let's push forward, balance, right, left. You're not thinking about that. When you're driving, you're not thinking about it. You're probably on your phone, as we shouldn't be, but you're on your phone driving, looking at the light, whatever, because it's autonomic. It's automatic. It's all done by your subconscious. So the same thing happens with everything. You walk by and somebody says, hey, how's it going? And your reaction is, going great. How about you? Right? That is an automatic response. You didn't stop and think, how is it going right now? You're right. It's not like it doesn't happen. And the same thing, happens with every single aspect in your life. So now that we have that concept, that overall concept, this is what this means. Okay. Do you want to highlight some of the things, what it means? What do you think it means?
It basically means that if you want to change your life, or if you want to do what you consciously want or think you want to do, you have to reprogram that subconscious.
Yeah.
Because it controls 95% of your reality.
Yeah. Yep. And so what this means is that exactly what you said, your beliefs create your ceilings in your life. Oh, I can't do that. Man, I want to do that. You watch a movie, you watch a motivational documentary, you're inspired. Oh, I want to do that. When it really comes down to it, you're like, man, that's later on, down the road, 5 years from now.
Like, I'm never going to be able to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Reality hits you.
Yeah. I'll never be able to do that. But it's fun watching somebody else do it, right? That kind of a thing. You literally cannot achieve beyond what you believe is possible. Logic and willpower can't override subconscious programming. We should put an asterisk there because there is a caveat to that. To break through means reprogramming your view of what's possible. And this isn't motivational speak. This is how the brain works. This is proven neuroscience. This is proven epigenetics. Bruce Lipton is one of the pioneers in epigenetics, and he talks about this a lot. And so also motivational stuff. Like if I was teaching in class, I would ask everybody to raise their hand. Like, how many of you have watched something that's been extremely motivational, and in that moment of time, you're just like, you're raring to go, right? Mm. How long does that last? Usually.
Probably a couple minutes.
Yeah.
I think it depends how much you actually resonate with it, like how much you can see yourself in it. Because honestly, for me, if it's someone who can like show me something that I can do, and then I like truly believe that, like it could last years for me.
Yeah.
I've had impact people who have inspired me for my whole life. So, but then you also have people who inspire you for 20 seconds. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a great point. One of our fans. And that's a great point, because if you, and I'm glad you brought it up that way, because a lot of times you see the motivation and people are like, yeah, I can do that. You have those motivational speakers, get out there, you push through it and you can blah, blah, blah. And then you're like, yeah, and you psych yourself up. There's also others to where people have, and there's some people have a really good way of saying, this is where I was. And then you can relate to that. And you're like, oh, I was there. And then you're like, and this is what I went through. And then you're like, well, I'm going through some of that now. And you're like, and this is what I learned. And then maybe you're not learning that yet, but that opens up, you're like, oh, maybe that's what I need to learn. And then you're like, and this is how I overcame it. And this is my success. And so then when somebody's clearly puts that path together, then you're able to then, well, you see your mind says, oh, well, maybe this is possible. Oh, and so that's the power of suggestion, right? So maybe this is possible. And so in those cases, that motivation can help you because then you're like, well, he did it and he was right where I was, or he was my same age when he started, and so on and so forth. So that can definitely help. For the majority of it, motivation is like an adrenaline shot in the arm, right? It's like you get psyched up, you know what you need to do, you know what you want to do. You've listened to this guy yelling from the stage, for 30 minutes, and there's this motivational music behind it, and you're just like, oh, and you're like, yeah, F that shit, I'm going to achieve, and you run out, and maybe that lasts through the day, half day, whatever it is. And then life, smacks you in the face. And then you're kind of thrown off. And the reason being is because you're trying to consciously push yourself forward, right? You're using a chemical reaction of adrenaline or dopamine or whatever it is in that moment to motivate you. You're using pain of where you don't want to be. You're like, oh, I never want to go back there again, so I got to power through this. You're using pain, or you're using pleasure to draw you to something. For some people, pleasure is enough. Some people are like, I'm going to be, a multimillionaire, and that's enough to drive them to get up every morning and do the things that they need to do and learn, right? But most of the time, those are external things that you're having to dredge yourself through, right? But all along the way, you're fighting your subconscious programming. You're fighting that quiet self-sabotage, where you're just kind of like, oh, why did I completely forgot to do that today? Because you got distracted over here, or you're like, I don't really feel like it, or all of a sudden you're really tired and you just kind of don't feel, like, oh, I know that I need to do that. Or you start picking it apart, because perfectionism is also another thing. Well, I don't know if it's good enough, or I'll never be good enough, or I'm not worthy. And a lot of these things happen from the subconscious level. So to really be able to, as a business owner, to kind of achieve the levels of success that you want to achieve, the reason why that percentage is so low is because the ones that get there are either, number one, they know the secret, right? They know that they've had to do the work internally. But for the most part, it's those that just have that unbreakable grit. They're just like, I am not going to X, right? And they just power through it every day. But not everybody has that unlimited amount of power to be able to just power through that every day. And so, some real world examples of these are like I said, the business owner who wants to grow but keeps self-sabotaging. Someone who says they'll learn AI, but they find excuses every week. The person who's too busy to implement, what would save them 10 hours a week. Someone's like, oh, it's not laziness. I just don't have the time. Right. Well, the truth is it's not laziness. It's programming protecting you from perceiving a perceived threat. Mm-hmm. Right. And we can go so deep into this, but someone listening might be like, perceived threat. Like, what does that mean? I'm not like in war times or anything, but what's crazy is that, and I remember when I first learned this years ago, I found this absolutely fascinating. The programming that runs in the background, that is your baseline. That is 2 + 2 = 4. But then sometimes in your program, 5 + 5 = -3. Or 4 + 4 = 26, right? Meaning that Someone is genuinely coming into your life to show you an opportunity, to show concern for you because they want to help you. But your subconscious runs a threat because maybe something unfortunate happened to you as a child, right? And so then you're like, oh, I don't trust this person. There's something about this person. I don't trust them, And so it throws up this threat because according to your internal programming, that 5 plus 5 equaled -3. And so when in reality, that 5 plus 5 should have equaled 10. And so it's and this is why I always say, if you took a child and from day one you raised them and you told them that the sky was yellow, that the sky is yellow. They would think that what we know as blue is yellow. And then whatever colors, like that would be their belief system, right? And they would just operate according to that belief system. Their world is just slightly different than yours. And so that's basically what is happening, is that whatever the programming is that we had from our youth up to the age of 28, because between 13 and 8 to 28, our brains are still malleable. Our subconscious is still malleable, which, by the way, parents, you're listening. This is why like some of your kids can go away to college and they come back a completely different person, right? You think you knew them and then they come back with like piercings and, like doing drugs or whatever. Or maybe they were doing drugs and had piercings and then they came back and they're just like, straight A students and like, oh, they're awesome because they're still, it depends on the environment that they're in that can still shape them.
What would you say the percentages? Because you said from 1 to 5, you're the most malleable.
7.
1 to 7. Would you say the majority of your programming is developed in that period?
So yeah, so I'll kind of go over this. So it's 0 to 3, 3 to 7, 7 to 13. So our subconscious, so in the womb, aside from the ears, our actual subconscious programming is one of the first things that starts to form, right? So you touched on something really important before when you said like that genetic programming, because that does come from your mother and your father's DNA. Like there's code in there, right? Of how we should operate, things, blah, 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 blah. This is where people say ancestral trauma likes to come in, but also ancestral success, right? Like, it's good and bad, or it's both sides of the coin. And so from the time that you're born to the age of 3, our brains are in delta. And so we're extremely malleable then. From the ages of 3 or 2.5 to 7, our brains move dominant into theta. And so then we're still very, very malleable, but theta is more kind of like dream walking, sleepwalking kind of a stage. And then from 7 to 13, our brains are predominantly in alpha. So through every point of those stages, our subconscious, I like to say, is like a super intelligent computer, AI learning system. And it's picking up everything that happens. You're learning. Why did that happen? I saw that happened. This is why kids, around 5, 3, 5, up to 7, they ask a million questions, right? Like, why, or they pick up everything that you say, like I remember having my niece and nephew in the back of the car and I was like, God damn it. Somebody cut me off and the little one, she was like, yeah, God damn it. And I'm like, uh-oh, your mom's going to fucking hate me.
Uncle Matt, what are you teaching the kids?
Yeah. So like they pick things up like super quickly. And so through those, to answer your question, through those years are extremely formidable. The earlier you can get in the programming, the better, right? And then from 13 on, we're in predominantly beta brainwave state. And so, but we're still malleable. Because we're still trying to figure out the world, our trust system. What do we believe? That's when identity starts to really come in the preteens or the 13 and up. And so you're still trying to figure out your identity. Who am I? And so you're like, well, they're cool. Maybe I want to be like them. And so you go hang out with them. You start modeling them. And that's why that's why you can change in those years. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. Having a 16-month-old and 2 babies on the way, you see them like learn so quick. Now he's just like It's funny because he loves our phones, and you don't know where he learned it. I mean, obviously it's just observation, but he picks up the phone, he goes like this, blah 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 blah, just babbles and walks around the house, and we're like, yeah. I mean, it's just it's crazy how much they pick up so
Copies you.
quickly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
it's interesting.
Yeah. Interesting thing about that too is so like our our subconscious doesn't process negatives well. And so in neurolinguistic programming, as an NLP practitioner, you're taught the operating language of the subconscious. Because if you're going to go in and reprogram something, you got to understand what the zeros and ones mean. And so one of the things is whenever you tell someone, and you'll relate to this as a father, and I think a lot of our listeners will. Actually, I always run this little test, this example. Okay, whatever you do, don't think of a pink elephant. What did you just think of?
Pink elephant.
I tried not to.
You tried not
Or
to.
you tried,
I
but it was
tried
hard.
to think of a pink flamingo instead.
Yeah, but you had to put effort into it.
Yeah.
Okay, so then how about this? I want you to think of any other animal than a pink elephant. What'd you think of?
Thought of a bear.
Okay.
Leopard.
Leopard. A lot easier, right?
Yeah.
So our subconscious doesn't process negatives well. So that's why like young kids, when you're like, hey, you better not go and put that on the floor or pick that up from the floor. And they're like, huh? And they pick it up from the floor. Because basically you, according to their processing system, you said, go pick that up from the floor, right? And like they can't help it.
Yeah.
And so like that's a lot of times whenever people will say, I don't want to forget this, or don't let me forget this kind of a thing, right? Well, and then you end up forgetting it. So a better thing to do is like, I am going to remember this. I will remember to do this, right? So you talk to yourself in positive framing instead of negative framing. And that's where the whole thing comes from, like positive thoughts, positive thinking. Like it's impossible to have positive thoughts and positive thinking all the time. You just have to develop a way to be able to process the negatives and understand them better. But yeah, so next time, you're telling your kid not to do something, be like, hey, Johnny, how about you go over there instead of there? And,
yeah. Well, we're seeing that a lot because right now he's just getting into things. He's being a little bit mischievous, so we're like, don't go in there. Don't grab that. Like, we're like, no. So, and it's just, by default, that's how we like try to discipline him.
Yeah.
So we've been trying to like just veer his attention. Like, if he grabs our phone, like, oh, can I have that, please? What about this? And then we like offer him something else instead of saying, no, don't grab that. No, don't touch that. Because if you're just saying no all day, every day, like you said, it's just going to fortify, those actions.
Yeah. And it does in a really weird way too. Like it makes them feel that they can't do anything,
right?
Kind of a thing. Another powerful thing too is the power of suggestion. We've all heard it, right? So you can say, you might like this better, or perhaps this may be a better decision, right? So you're not saying you will like this better, because when you do that to adults, most or even young kids, they're like, no, because they've been told no their whole life. But if you do like, if you thought about this differently, you might find a better result, something like that. And so then they're like, would I? Might I? Right? So then you actually think about it a little bit more. So yeah, it's really fun. It's fascinating. So let's kind of tie this into AI, right? So AI is now this tool that is super powerful. It can help business owners, do more, less time, better outputs, increase ROI, boost revenue, reduce, admin tasks, mundane stuff. If the time is taken to slow down a little bit to learn it and implement it, you can 10x, right? You can see the results increase over time. However, what are some of the the resistances that we're kind of seeing with some people about AI?
I think it's kind of funny because AI is like what we just talked about with the subconscious and the kids and the way you talk to them. I think it's funny because people think that you can talk to AI in any way and you're going to get the output that you want.
Mhm.
But if you tell it, don't do this, don't use M dashes, it'll probably use an M dash.
Yeah,
Like
it's true.
it's actually so weird. And I think it's just because it's trained to mimic humans. So it's like, oh, that's part of my programming. If you say don't, I'm gonna do it because that's what a human would do, probably. Um, but because of that, I think people on the surface level see that it's not giving them the results that they expect from it. Also, another thing I was thinking about this morning, just something that I've learned using AI so much is the more you can cut back the assumptions that the AI is making, you'll be like astounded at how well it can get you what you actually want. Um, so like the way my dad talks to AI, he uses it every day, but he doesn't get the output that he wants. Where he'll hand me the same AI chat thread. I'll grab his phone and literally 2 seconds later I'll get exactly what he wanted. It's because I know how to communicate with it and people don't. But the tricky thing is AI it's really good at making assumptions and it'll get it like maybe 50% of the time. And then because of that 50% of the time you think it can do everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't need to explain it very well. I can tell it in 2 sentences and it's going to give me exactly what I want. But that's just not true. It's just lucky maybe not even half of the time, but because it's done that a couple of times for you, you just and then once you start noticing the other way where it's not getting what you want, I think humans are just lazy and they're like, "Oh, I'm not going to use it. I'm
Yeah.
not going to put in the work," because they think, "Well, this is all it can do, so this is all it can do and this isn't useful for me."
Yeah, which is a limiting belief, right? So
Yep.
like some people, I've actually come across this. Some people have actually used AI to prove to themselves how unvaluable it is,
Yep.
right? And so, like, yeah, I tried, I did this, and I asked it to do that, and it didn't do it good,
Yep.
and so it's just not for me, kind of a thing. So basically, what they're doing is they're creating their own cognitive bias, right? So they're like, well, yeah, I'm going to use it. I'm going to prove myself, that I don't need it, kind of a thing. We're also seeing a lot of fear, right, around AI.
Sure.
People are afraid that AI is going to take their jobs. There's a lot of hype because that kind of news sells. It doesn't matter what network you look at; they're all owned by the same conglomerates, and they sell advertising. And so it's the same stuff. AI taking over the industry. AI dropping workforce history. 17,000 people fired today due to AI. It's like all of those things. So there's there's this fear about AI, robots. What's going to happen? The government isn't helping. It's a race to have the super intelligence because whoever has the first super intelligence is going to rule the world. And God forbid if China is the first one because we can't trust those bastards, kind of a thing. Like that's what they want us to believe.
Yeah.
And or the same thing with Russia or whatever. Like, have you guys seen that Russian robot demo? Did you see that one?
No, I don't think so.
Oh my God, it was like blown up at least in my feed. There was like the new Russian robot was unveiled, and the robot comes out and it's like and like kind of falls
Short
over
circuits.
and like it crashes, and the guys are out there like putting blankets over it,
Oh
and they're
my
just like
gosh.
trying to take it off the stage because it's like this embarrassing thing, when in reality it was probably a bug Russia's probably doing some great things with AI, but that's the perception that they want us, to perceive it. It's stupid, but there's so much fear. There's so much lack, fear of scarcity. Lack is being perpetuated now very heavily with AI because people are like, well, if AI takes all our jobs, what am I going to do? I'm not going to have enough. So that's lack, right? So that's that fear creates scarcity mindset. I'm not going to be able to survive. My job's going to be taken. What's going to happen if I'm in the unemployed workforce? So there's a lot of this limiting programming being perpetuated, a lot of limiting thoughts and beliefs and, fear structures that are being put through mainstream news and perpetuated by certain, areas of society. And so business owners don't really know what to believe, right? The smart business owners are like, dude, you know what, whatever. It might end up in Terminator, 2, 20 years from now. But until then, I'm going to learn AI and I'm going to, be good at it. Right. And then there's other who are just like, well, the ethics and I'm afraid of this and I'm afraid of that. And sure, there are certain things that we got to be careful of course. It's any kind of super intelligent, technology you should treat with caution. But, the point is that this is how these things, we can see our own limitations, our own programming being projected or being prodded and brought out by AI now coming into the society. Some people are embracing it. Some people are like, I got to learn this because I don't want to be, a dinosaur, which in its own right is action based on scarcity, right? So like you're afraid that you're not going to have enough food through the winter. So as a caveman, you are out there hunting your heart out because I'm not going to have enough. So that action is based off of fear and scarcity, right? Then you have the other, cavemen who is like, I'm not that great of a hunter, but I'm going to try my best, and so you have these two different spectrums of scarcity that happen, but at least it's a positive thing that they're doing. They're taking action based on that. It's propelling them. And then you have those who are like, this is an amazing opportunity. I see how this is going to help provide more abundance, more positive benefit, more free time when used ethically and properly. And so you have AI is really just a mirror, and it's starting to reflect back to us our innermost desires, fears, confusions, etc. So, Christian, what are some of I'm putting you guys on the spotlight.
Put us on the spot.
Yeah. So when we talk about the mindset and, limitations, challenges, have there been any for you?
Yeah, I mean, generally it's funny because I was just talking to AI, yesterday, my little therapist on ChatGPT. But we're going back and forth and we're talking about content yesterday, and like sometimes I can be, I'm a creative, and sometimes I can be a perfectionist when it comes to putting out content, or
sometimes,
putting out my art. Yeah, most of the time. So that causes me to, take a long time with projects, procrastinate sometimes. So that's kind of been my limiting belief about myself. Like, this isn't good enough, or, and that all spawns from childhood stuff, which I won't get into. But yeah, for me, content creation is kind of a huge barrier sometimes. So as I was talking, I was like, okay, why am I like this? Because I've been, I have this chat thread that I've had for, probably over a year now. And the crazy thing about AI is that it learns, it just learns about you, knows everything about you. There's things that I've told it that I don't remember that it remembers. So it'll reflect back, pretty precise, whenever I ask it a question, it'll reveal a lot of things. So it told me, it says it wasn't diagnosing me, but basically diagnosed me with like ADHD, like inattentive ADHD. And then it listed 12 things.
Oh, no.
I take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
But the good
As
thing
you
about
should,
it,
people.
as you should. Yeah, don't believe everything it says. But it allowed me, and the things that it were saying, was true. It allowed me to, really self-analyze myself and really dive in. And it's not fun to hear, but I think it was crucial for me to hear because it pointed out things that maybe my limiting beliefs and subconscious was trying to suppress. But AI doesn't know or care. It's just going to blurt out whatever it thinks to you. As opposed to myself, where I would just be in denial and all that stuff. So all that being said, it pointed out, my perfectionism, why I procrastinate, like I hyper focus on things and all that stuff. So, as far as like limiting beliefs and things like that, I think, AI has been crucial in helping me point that out and hopefully, get over those boundaries and next steps.
Yeah, it's a great blind spot identifier, right? Because it's a master, if you will, at pattern recognition. And so if you've been feeding it, just like I have, all of your business and your goals and ideas and thoughts and strategies and things that you need help with and all this other stuff. And then at the end of last year, I asked it to identify blind spots, basically to psychoanalyze me and identify my most glaring blind spots that I might not see. And it did. It identified some of those, and one of those was also perfectionism. Like it was, you feel like you have to have things right before you launch them, and the fear of not being accepted with certain things, and so this year was very big for me, which is why I push you a lot too, because I've been there. It's like it doesn't have to be perfect. We're just getting it out. Like we're just getting it done. It's like overcoming that perfectionism loop. Trey, what are I know that you're pretty much perfect, so we shouldn't ask you this question.
Well, actually, I wanted to talk about a little bit more about what you're saying. Because you're opening up to AI, pretty vulnerably, which is interesting because there's a study done. 85% of people believe they're less biased on average or than average using AI. So that was 1 in 600 people thought they were more biased after using AI, which is pretty fascinating. But the really interesting thing was we actually learn better from negative feedback coming from AI than we do from humans.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
And the study also just revealed that people are more willing to, which is kind of funny, they're more willing to talk to the AI because there isn't a fear of judgment, even when the AI gives you gives you feedback to help you progress, and then we actually use that better than if it was from a human. So it's kind of like, what do you think about that? I'm just interested.
You know what? It makes total sense to me because this is the part that's always been fascinating to me, is that someone gives you feedback and you either get defensive or you say, oh, okay, I didn't realize that, and I'm going to take that and learn from it, right? But let's be honest, most people get defensive, right? Or they're like, well, thank you for sharing that with me. And you try and, not be defensive, but you're still defensive. And then you're like, well, why did they say that about me? Why are they, And so every time we get feedback, whether it's from a person or from the world, right? Because how many people have been like, why did that happen to me? This person, tripped in front of me and they dropped their purse, and then I tripped over their purse and I ran out and stepped on this dog shit and, and then blah, blah, blah. This whole chain of events are like, God is, trying to teach me a lesson, kind of a thing. So like even feedback that we get in our environment, we tend to be on the defensive. Why me? Why is this happening to me?
Yeah.
And so like, why are you picking on me? Why are you telling me that feedback? That kind of a thing. So, but when it comes from AI, like we inherently know that AI doesn't have an agenda, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
Like we're just kind of like, oh, it's just this thing. So when it comes out, we're not going to sit there and be like, well, you don't know me, ChatGPT. Like,
Well, I have done that before. I said some stuff. I was like, you don't know anything about me. What are you talking about?
And, yeah, that's funny.
So I might be that one person who gets triggered by
You
it.
get triggered, I guess. Maybe you should sit with that for a little bit. but it's true though. It's a much more what we neutral person kind of a thing, which is why in heated arguments or situations, having a person that has no stake in the game either way, people can listen to them, a mediator, right? Which is why therapy is better when you're talking with somebody who isn't your, cousin or best friend or your, mother-in-law or whatever it is, right? It's somebody that you don't know, they're not in your life, and you're able to sit down and talk and be open with them because they're this completely neutral person. So that actually makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah. And I've known, I've by no means perfect, but I have tried to work a lot on, okay, someone's telling me this, they're giving me this feedback. Obviously they see something that I don't, maybe I should listen to it. But with AI, it's just been this like, tell me, like I did this or this happened or whatever, or we're experiencing this, what could I glean from that? And so, yeah, I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I think that's, the thing too, like it'll give you feedback. Like it's like really nice, like as long as you're nice to it. So it'll like pump you up, be like, but I see these things. And then it'll give you like a report on like, that feedback. So it's actually like actionable stuff sometimes that you can take, as opposed to somebody on the street giving you some random criticism and then walks away, So, and then you're in a world of like just busy people who like will criticize you and then, get on with their day. AI is there to chat with whenever you're ready.
Yeah, like right away, the first things that come to mind when there's negative feedback from other people, there's usually like time pressure, like they don't want to spend very much time getting the context, like, listening to you and like giving you really thorough feedback. It's pretty rare because people just want to move on with their day. And then the other thing is they like to put you in their own perception of you. They like to, and I hate that. When someone tries to like confine me to what they think I am, I'm like, no, dude, don't do that to me.
You don't know me.
And that's what triggered me with chat, because it did that. And I was like, I didn't even give you the context to say this shit, man. You don't know anything.
Is that why you deleted it?
Yeah, and then I proceeded to delete it.
That's why he doesn't use ChatGPT anymore. He's like, I only use
because
Claude.
Claude won't do that.
Claude's
It'll be
my
like,
buddy.
it'll ask me a bunch of questions before it ever does anything like that.
Sure, it does ask clarifying questions. Is this what you meant, Trey?
That's hilarious.
But yeah, for me, that's like what triggers me the most. It's like I can clearly tell that you're not putting in the time because you have something else on your mind.
Yeah.
And then I can clearly tell that you're just trying to conform me to this idea that you think I am.
No.
But if those two things don't happen, I usually like will take that feedback, to heart, because I know it was pretty genuine. But again, like AI like replicates that pretty good.
Yeah.
Because it has unlimited time, and then it's usually pretty thorough. So,
and have there been any areas in your your life or work here where you've noticed limiting, programming's creeping up, self-sabotage?
yeah, all the time. It's like something that it's just a constant battle, because there's different ways of reprogramming the subconscious, but it's also like constant work. Like the days that you take off, the days that you aren't doing that work or putting up your armor, if you will, um, it's different things all the time. But for me, it's just a constant battle. Like it's not the same thing every time. It's usually different things. And I just try to improve, and yeah, I just don't like to get fooled twice. You fool me once, I'm gonna try and figure that out and fix it. But yeah,
It's interesting. You said that there was that John Dylan Haynes. There was a natural neuroscience in 2008. The Max Planck Institute study using fMRI found that brain activity predicts even up to 7 seconds ahead of time how a person is going to decide. Researchers noted that many processes in the brain occur automatically without involvement of our consciousness. This prevents our mind from being overloaded with simple routine tasks. But when it comes to decisions, we tend to assume they're made by our conscious mind. And this is completely questioned by our current findings. And this was from Science Daily. Up to 7 seconds
it's crazy.
prior. So we've already made up our mind. This is, and it takes a lot of conscious effort to kind of like override that so you can be in the moment, because if not, you think the other person is not doing the same thing. So it's basically your subconscious talking back to each other. I'm going to react this way, and then I'm going to react this way, kind of a thing. And so this is where meta-awareness, the practice of meta-awareness, comes in. And meta-awareness is being aware of your thoughts, right? Like thinking about your thoughts, thinking about your reactions and your feelings. Like, why did I feel that way? Oh, I'm starting to feel this way. Why did I feel that? It reduces your reactionary experience and response, and it increases your ability to actually begin to process those things. And so, it's pretty interesting. And then also Bruce Lipton's, the PubMed Central was talking about Bruce Lipton's framework. The subconscious mind is the primal mind and constitutes about 90% of our brain. Subconscious mind is habitual. It has programs in it, habits. These habits play automatically without thinking about them. And PubMed also did some interesting research that finds that personality traits are shaped by values and beliefs, and they're crucial in guiding entrepreneurial decisions and makings. And so, like when you think about like what's identity, who am I, what's my personality, and all of those things, right? We like to think that we take ownership of that, like that's who I am. But basically that is formed by who we were programmed to be by our environment, right? There's like nurture versus nature kind of things. And so that's why earlier on made the statement that programs that you were not in control of, right? Because you're not in control of what you're learning from your parents. You're not in control of what you're learning from your older siblings. Older siblings have a huge impact on your trauma, on, you get picked on a lot, on what you trust, believe, don't believe, your ability to have relationships, and also, your teachers, kids in school, auntie, grandma, whatever it is. So it's really, really, really fascinating. So if your subconscious is limiting you, then by this point, people are like, okay, I get it. How can you change it?
Yeah.
Right? Well, the truth is you can't. Just kidding.
We're all screwed.
That's it. You're all screwed. Blame your parents. No. So mindset means your programming. Okay. And I also feel like I have to put this caveat in here. That doesn't mean that when you're out there on social media or on YouTube and you're listening to someone talking about mindset, there's a 9 out of 10 chance that they have no idea what mindset really means. So don't think that now everything they're talking about means your subconscious, because they don't know as well. It's like the dented bread pan analogy that I use all the time. So how do we do? What do we do? What are some simple things that we can do at home? Well, first of all, so there's two ways that you can do this. You can do this from the external, or you can do this from the internal. The simplest way is to do it from the internal. The easiest way is to do it from the external. So why am I using those words simple and easy? Because internally, you just understand you have to find out where your programming is coming from. That requires awareness. You have to address that. And then you just basically go through the process of reprogramming that. That's hypnosis, NLP, and any kind of subconscious work, right? Some people do like body healing, somatic healing. The reason why I said simplest and not easiest is because it's a lot harder. It's harder because that takes you having to admit that you have things that you need to change. And most people I have come into contact with don't like admitting that, right? I didn't like admitting it until I was, at one of my very deepest pits. And then you're either forced to pull the trigger of like I was, or realize I'm the problem. Okay. So I'm not going to take the easy way out. I'm going to figure this out and fix it. True story. And so that's the hardest way because it takes the most vulnerability. It takes the most internal emotional openness, awareness that you have to, it also takes fighting your ego. Because your ego is trying to protect you, keep you safe. Like, no, that's not true. Yeah, I am a worthy person. I am awesome. I am capable. I am all these things, right? The easiest way, or I would say the simplest way, is through someone called cognitive behavioral therapy, right? And that's just a fancy way, cognitive, meaning you're conscious, you're aware of what you're doing. Behavioral, it's like habits, right? This is my behavior. These are things I do. Therapy means you're looking at it and you're adjusting it so that way you can do it. So like habits, habitual things that we do, they say like you do something for, what do they say, 21 days to change a habit kind of a thing. In reality, it's more like 66 days. But you can reverse engineer. So our subconscious mind learns through only one mechanism, and that's repetition. And that's it. So like you think about it, you're writing a code, like we're writing a code. Hey, you got to fix this. Oh yeah, great. It's fixed. No, it's not. Go back. Hey, you got to fix this. Oh, I got it this time. No, you didn't. Hey, there's a problem here. You probably want to look in there. Oh, this time that makes sense. No, you didn't. It's like repetition, right?
Yeah.
And then finally, oh, I got it. So it's like repetition. So and that goes all the way into like neurosynaptics and how our body wires things, neurons that fire together, wire together, and those become new pathways of how we think. And so you can rewire that by doing something repeatedly. So if you're, let's use AI as an example, right? And basically, so I'll step back a little bit. A great way to want to do things repeatedly is to prove yourself wrong, right? So if you are really want to, we'll use AI as an example. Use AI in a case study that if you've been avoiding it, for anybody that's been, listening to this, if you've been avoiding it, find a case study, set yourself up for success, okay? So here's the thing. You might be like, I know I want to use it, but I've been avoiding it. I know that it probably can help me, but I just don't have the time. Well, if you want to work over a hurdle to get to where you know you need to go, then set yourself up for success. So what I mean by that is find something that AI could do well. You know what? I know that it could probably write, help me write half of my book, or at least give me the summary of my book or whatever. Then go do that. But I've never tried it before, so actually take the time and do it. Talk to it, let it know what you're trying to do, blah, blah, I want a summary, and then it spits it out. And then you'll be amazed. You'll be like, oh, wow, this is better than, and by the way, if you are going to do this, use Claude, don't use ChatGPT. Yeah. So then, because then you'll be impressed. With ChatGPT, you'll be frustrated. You're like, what the heck is this? And so then you'll be like, oh, this is actually cool. This is useful. Like, this helped me out. Oh my gosh, I didn't think about that. So now you've proved yourself wrong. Now you've put yourself in a situation to where you saw a positive result. And so then you're like, okay, so what that happens, remember earlier we talked about the power of suggestion. So you just opened up a suggestion that this could work. This could be possible. So that's how you get it. Another way I've heard this thing. I actually, back whenever I was a bachelor, like, oh, I don't, it's like talking to women, approaching women, like, I don't like it, whatever. But you have to just do the one time, right? They say, well, go and just try it once. See what happens, right? Because you think the girls are gonna be like, ew, walk away. And then in reality, you try, hey, how's it going? And you end up having a conversation with them. And they're like, see, that wasn't that bad, was it? No, actually, I got her name and, and she's cool and blah, blah, blah. And so you open up that, now you have more confidence that you might try it again. So that's the simplest, the easiest way to begin to reprogram your subconscious, because the more you do it, then you're proving to yourself that something could be possible. Then you do it again with more results, and then you continue to do it again with even more results, and then you're reprogramming yourself. I present that to the majority of the people who are listening to this and are interested, because the truth of the matter is most people are not ready to do the deep work that they need to do on the level. So this is what you would call like the 101. This is the great way to start, because then you can start proving to yourself that certain things are possible. And so how can we tie this into business with business owners? Whether it's you're working hard or trying hard or putting forth effort, and you're like, you know what, we never get past that particular revenue goal, right? Well, first of all, you have to ask yourself, is that true? Look at your P&Ls. Was there even 1 month that you exceeded that goal? And then if you look at it, and then you're essentially, what you're doing here is you're unraveling that old belief system, and you always have to try and prove yourself wrong. You're like, well, no, actually we did. In June and July of last year, we did do more than that. Aha. So you did. So your statement of we could never, is that true or false? No, that's actually false. So then you're like, okay, well, if you did it once, could you possibly do it again? Yeah, if we did it once, we could do it again. All right, now you've opened up your subconscious to begin to accept the possibility of achieving more. So these are some tactics that you can use. A lot of times with AI, people say, when we're talking about limiting beliefs, well, I don't even know how to use the thing. And I say this in the training. It's like, well, tell it. What are the questions I should be asking that I don't know what to ask? Like, you don't know what you need to ask. You don't know what you don't know. What we also have to realize is that we've spent decades of our life, for those of us that have been alive for more than 2 decades, we've spent decades of our life reaffirming the beliefs that were embedded in us when we were youths, right? Because our RAS, so going back to reticular activating system, our RAS looks for things to support our belief system. So if we believe that bad things always happen to us, we're going to look for bad things that could happen to us. So that way we can prove ourselves right. If we believe that there's opportunity around every corner, we're going to look for that to prove that right? And so with when it comes to business, basically, like, we have to understand that that's what our programming is looking for. So we have to now start changing those things to start to look for more opportunities. And when you see what's possible, your mind starts going, and you start to be able to identify more possibilities and stuff like that. So
Yeah, I think resilience, going back to it taking like a little bit of willpower, because it is scary to kind of push yourself and, get to that next level in business. And it's easier to tell yourself, oh, I can't do it. It's not possible. Things like that. And for me, it takes a lot of resilience to break to that next level and to defeat those like limiting beliefs and fears and things like that, because you'll try and then you'll fail, and you'll try and then you'll fail. It's almost like, working out. It's like, oh, I can't hit this weight on bench. You try, you fail for, maybe weeks, but the ability to get up, try again until you eventually, break that plateau and get to the next level is kind of what it takes sometimes. And then you see that and you're like you said, oh, this is possible. It opens up another level in your mind of, what you can achieve, but it takes a little bit of that grit in the beginning to get past that. So
yeah, yep, it does. And so basically to kind of wrap this up, that's one thing that we're passionate about. Like, we help people automate their external their external processes, right? Because if you start seeing success in your external world because you installed AI and it's freeing up more time and it's making you more money, you're going to see other opportunities where you can do that. You're going to start adopting it more, et cetera, et cetera. Then you are freed up to actually, like going back into our first episode, spend more time, hopefully, looking in the mirror objectively, because you're not caught in this loop. And so then you're kind of like, oh, I can now kind of see that I'm the one driving the whole thing here. And then you can kind of work on yourself. But it's hard. It is harder to work on yourself internally when your external reality does not represent that, even though, just like I think it was Buddha or Gandhi? It's
That's
Gouda.
funny.
Yeah, it was the
That's a good
cheese.
one.
It was the cheese. that
cheese was
said-
talking to me, guys.
Cheese was talking to me. No, I was not on mushrooms. I believe it was Buddha that said, become the change you want to see in the world, right? Or it was Gandhi. Maybe it was Gandhi. Become the change that you want to see.
Gandhi.
Yeah, I think it was Gandhi.
No.
Become the change that you want to see in the world, right? And that you have to become that change, and then your external reality will begin to change that. And this has nothing to do with cheese, because again, the reticular activating system, you've become a different person, so now you're going to see a different world. But you can do it the other way. So anyway, we could go so much deeper into this, and there's so much more. But in the reality of the world is that we have to we got to operate to operate better internally, externally to see the world that we like to achieve. Anything you guys want to wrap up with?
No, I think that was great. I think there can definitely be a part 2 to this.
Yeah,
'Cause
4.
4. Yeah, it's really interesting stuff, and I think AI just helps, emphasize and can really be helpful when it comes to this stuff.
Yeah, and I'm coming up designing and building a tool that will help you to be able to identify your blind spots as an entrepreneur, and it does it from a neuroscience standpoint, subconscious reprogramming and NLP, to help you to be able to, like, well, what are mine? And it's a much safer environment, I would say, than just going into random AI and doing that, because it's trained properly, and to help kind of guide you through these things, and then also, if it's not down there now when you're listening to this, it will be soon. Going to be releasing a basically like a AI business entrepreneurial toolkit to help you to be able to use AI, implement it into your business, and see real results on it, so you can start automating those. And that's it for this week's episode. What, 3? Was that 3?
Episode 3.
Episode 3.
We're moving.
Yeah, episode 3. So we're pushing. We have to overcome our own self-sabotaging techniques so we can get past to 10, which won't be a problem. All right, like, subscribe, follow, share with your friends, your auntie and uncle, and your grissy grandmammy. And we'll see you in the next episode.